Welcome to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright. This show is all about honoring you as a spiritual being, having a human experience. You are here for a reason, and it's no mistake that you are here on earth right now. Spirit has guided you to this very moment in time, so you could hear the messages Pam is about to share with you. She is a multidimensional healer, light language channel, transformation coach, wife and mother, committed to helping you discover the tools and practices to empower you to live the best life you can. You get to choose the spirit path you take. You can connect to the spiritual guidance already all around you. Get ready to live a fully empowered life. This is the Empower Me Show.
So welcome to the Empower Me Show. I don't have a camera going either, but that's okay. We're going to just wing it today. My name is Pam Bright, and I am your hostess for this program. And I am so glad you're here. Sometimes technology just tries to take us out in life. And today we're not going to let that happen. So we're going to go with what we got here. And hopefully you will get exactly what you need in this program. So I am here with my guest today, Lori Spagna, I believe is how you say your name, isn't it, Lori?
Yep, that's right.
All right, perfect. And she is a multidimensional healer, she's a animal communicator. She is an artist. She is I just made that up, but I think you probably are because you're very creative. And she speaks to animals and knows how they communicate. So we're going to find out all kinds of goodies from her about how she is in service to the world and what she is providing for the world in what she's doing in 2024. So welcome, Lori, to the show. And
Thank you.
I'm so glad I found you. I actually was given your name from another colleague. And so that was really great to connect with you, find out how you're doing, find out that you've actually been with Transformation Talk Radio before, which is wonderful. And so your name is not new to this organization, which is awesome. So tell us about, did you start with your light work as an animal communicator? Is that how you started working?
Well, first, Pam, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about our time together today and grateful to be here with you. And well, how it started, actually, my first 20 years out of college, I was in corporate America, miserable, playing what I call the slave game, on the hamster wheel. I was really unhealthy emotionally and mentally and spiritually, energetically, and I was doing all kinds of unhealthy behaviors to sort of cope and sort of like we call buffer or suppress, smoking excessively, drinking excessively, spending excessively, sexing excessively, like on and on the list goes. And what happened was my brother died of an unexpected drug overdose, and I started getting messages from him. And it took me like a year to work with that because I thought I was a little crazy, and people around me thought I was a little crazy. But I just kept working with it, like asking and, unpacking that. And over time, I really started to realize, no, I'm not making this up. And his big message to me was like, you're on the same kind of trajectory as me. Like, you need to change your ways. And so I was miserable during those 20 years out of college. I was so unhappy. And so I got to the point that I sort of also felt like I'd rather die than keep doing this, And I ended up quitting my job and I became a dog trainer. And because I always had it in my heart that I wanted to help animals. And my mantra was like, I want to help animals on a global scale. I want to help animals on a global scale. So when I started dog training, I immediately started to be able to hear the animals, the dogs. They would say, we're going to teach you. You listen to us. We're going to teach you. So I started learning from the animals, from the dogs. And I mean, it was very quickly, I could hear, not just hear, it wasn't just clairaudience. I was getting all kinds of messages. I was getting them from not just dogs either, all kinds of animals. And what ended up happening was my then husband divorced me. He pretty much thought I was crazy. He wasn't into this, and I was ready to grow, and he really didn't want that. So I ended up moving to Maui, and I started getting into all kinds of energy modalities, energy healing, energy practices, really, really deep work. And as I was working with my clients, I was starting to realize, like, oh, I was listening to what the animals would tell me, their animal companions would tell me to help them. And that just became the thing. It was like I was working with the humans and the animals. And then I was doing all these energy practices, and I had what's called a near-death experience in a meditative state. So it wasn't like in a hospital traditional. It was that inside of this, I was going to this energy healing circle every week where we were working with energy. And what ended up happening was my dog, she transitioned. And so I went to that circle that night, like, oh, I've got to meet my dog. I got to know that she's okay. I got to know where she's at. So the teacher put me in the middle of the room of, like 20 people around me. And I think what he did was he activated the DMT in my brain with energy. So for me, it was like having a near-death experience.
Tell us what DMT is.
Okay, I don't even know how to pronounce the full, it's dimethyltryptophan something in the brain. It's what gets released in the brain when someone dies. Anyway,
Okay.
so, and there's people who do like DMT trips to try to give themselves the experience of death. In fact, that's like the history of grave robbing. It's all about collecting DMT from the brain, not only, but that's like a lot of what they wanted.
Oh,
So, because that DMT can send you into really altered states. So, when that happened, I was in this sort of near-death experience with my dog who had transitioned, who basically met me. It was like, Mommy, it's okay. You're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. But in that state, it's like there's just such a blissful, euphoric energy. I was meeting all these people who I had known in this life and what you could call other lifetimes. I know this is really out there, but it just it was so real that what I realized was that light, after some period of time, I don't even know how much time it was, but that teacher like brought me back into the room, and I was in the middle of the room, and everybody was like touching me, and we were all going into these like curled up states of ecstatic bliss because of all that energy. And what I realized was, like that really is our natural state, right?
mm,
So anyway, I kind of jumped through a lot, but even since then, it took me like 20 years of healing traumas and wounds and wounding patterns, working with energy,
mhm.
reprogramming my mind and emotional field and my energy field and my consciousness. And now I just help other people with that. I'm helping evolutionary leaders who really want to really harness their intuition and learn how to use energy and consciousness to achieve their highest fulfillment and make global impact.
That's
And
great.
yeah, I mean, to me, that's like what we're here for, right? We're
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I'd like to go back to that state that you found yourself in meditation with the experience with your dog. And you call it a near-death experience. Did you feel like when you came out, did you have the experience of like, wait, is this the same world? Like, what's going on around me? I mean, because I had a near-death experience as well, and I remember coming back and going, okay, yeah, I recognize that you're my boyfriend, and yeah, you're my mom and dad, and you're my brother and sister, but everything around me was different. It was like, and I couldn't articulate it, and I really didn't know how to explain it.
Mhm.
And for me, I did not have the memory of that experience. I got it through recall of what actually occurred
Yeah.
during that time because I was unconscious. But
Yeah.
for 10 days, I was in a coma.
Oh,
But
wow.
I remember when I came back, it took me at least a good year to really be able to unravel, kind of like, what is this reality now? And
Mm.
knowing, I was very clear when I came back. I was very clear of my purpose. Like, this is why you came back. Now, I did not know the bigger purpose of being a mother, but that was not revealed to me yet. But I did know my spiritual purpose, and that I was here to fulfill on my mission.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about that transitionary period for you.
Well, you know what's really interesting is I don't usually even always like, I know that my experience was not traditional in the sense that it wasn't in a hospital. My body wasn't physically, diseased. I wasn't in any kind of coma state like what you just described. What happened really was that the teacher who I had been working with was just a master of energy who had studied with ancient teachings in the Himalayas. So he just knew how to use energy. And when I came to the class that day, I was in such a sad state because my dog had passed. I was so traumatized from the grief of the loss. So he just knew how to use that energy to create that experience for me. And from my perspective, because what I think he did was activate that DMT, that he put me into that state. So from my perspective, everything was gone. The integration part actually happened more, yes, gracefully, gradually over time, I would agree, except for that I knew when I was back in the room that night and we were like, all the people in the circle were just using their two fingers and just touching me, and everybody was just like spontaneously going into this euphoric, blissful laughter. That was because the energy that I was energetically connected to, in a sense, or at one with,
Mhm.
was so euphoric, right? Beyond the physical that we typically experience here, that everybody was going into those states. The integration of everything took a long time because you're right, Pam. You your brain cannot rationalize this kind of thing overnight.
Right.
You're the one who's changed from your experience, so your interpretation of the reality, and saying you, but I also mean me in this experience, is so like, it is like that, what is going on here, what, like, I started to realize the insanity of the physical world, the way we live and the way everything is here, but at the same time I was trying to make sense of what was real. So there
Mhm.
was a lot of that. And on top of that, I had a lot of like trauma healing. I mentioned this trauma healing to do because I didn't get to that point in my life because I was happy and joyous and free. I got to that point in my life because I had lived what I would call a very miserable life. And I had
Mhm.
a lot of healing to do. I grew up in a family where I was the black sheep, and I was really in a lot of ways neglected because I had to learn how to take care of myself, but it was more like I grew up with family that needed to take care of themselves. There was just a lot of instability, and there was a lot of, there was a lot of fighting and all kinds of emotional and mental like turmoil and, subtle abuse stuff that, that I had to heal from. So what did change dramatically, though, and right away, was as soon as I kind of like quit my old job, started as a dog trainer, started working as an animal communicator, and then got into the healing arts of using energy. Within that window of time, that initial window, which was like less than 2 years, I quit the smoking that I had been smoking for 20 years. I quit 2 packs of cigarettes a day, almost like that. I quit all the alcohol that I was drinking, excessive amounts. I quit all the pharmaceutical drugs overnight. And there was so much. I'm not saying that someone should do that. I'm just saying that's what happened to me. All of a sudden, my body didn't need any of those things.
Mhm.
I didn't need any of them. Like, I quit all the unhealthy foods. My thyroid healed. My hair started growing back again. I I had 6 figures in credit card debt that within 2 years was gone. Like it just started cleaning itself up in amazing and miraculous ways. So as soon as I started to get rightly aligned with my path, what you call this sort of, we could call it a near death, even though it wasn't like in the traditional sense of the word, but really what it was a massive energetic shift of
Yeah.
me, of the energy that I am, of the vibration that I hold and embody, of the consciousness. And then the residue was just what was falling away. But it took
Yeah.
a while to work through that, right?
I get that. In Alcoholics Anonymous, we call it the turning point. We
Mm,
stood at the turning point. We couldn't continue living the way that we were living, but we couldn't imagine a life that was opposite that. And
mm,
that's the moment of power. And
yeah.
that's the moment when, and I watched it in many, many, many people that I've interviewed on the show, people in my recovery life, people in churches, people, everyday people that have had that place of, I can't continue the way I'm continuing because I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled, I'm not, I feel this urgency to do what is inside of me to do, and I don't know how. That world, I believe, is our soul calling. And
Totally.
and if we're not listening to that and we're not following it, then we are not doing what we're here to do.
Yeah.
That's
For sure. I
that's my
completely agree
opinion.
with you. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's like the reason our lives get so off balance, things that happen, the reason that we're not happy or not fulfilled or not living our highest fulfillment, and then what ends up happening in our physical lives is, yeah, we have health challenges, or there's car accidents. Car accidents happen when you're not aligned with your right path, or, there's relationship challenges, or there's money challenges, health challenges, we said, like whatever it is, that is always a misalignment with our true divine, what I call our soul's true divine agenda, the right path that we're meant to really fulfill, our real calling, our reason for being here, which always ultimately is some form of what our soul desires to bring forward. And even we could say God, source, creator, the infinite, is utilizing us for in this physical world that we're meant to bring through here in service. And that's going to be the path to really alignment with our joy.
I believe that too. I believe that too. So let's look at, for those of you who are listening, I know that there are people listening who are like, well, yeah, but how do I know what my path is? How do I access my path? What would you say when, if people are in that place of curiosity, knowing that they have this drive, but they don't really know how to start? What
Yeah.
would you say to them?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I would say, um, it's always going to be something that leads you in the path of something that you truly enjoy, that feels fulfilling and rewarding, that combines some of your greatest gifts, talents, and abilities. Now, a person could say, I don't know what any of that is, but then you just start to endeavor to to discover and reveal to yourself, what is your great joy, what is your great happiness. I knew for me it was the path leading to the animals, but now so much of what I do is working with leaders in the world who really want to elevate and really want to contribute to global change in a positive way, and who've already done all kinds of practices and have done vision boards and have done affirmations and mindset shifting, and they know that there's more. So, but the animals were what led me there.
Mm,
So that's the first thing I would say, is to start exploring what is your highest, what is your joy. And if you don't know, just start playing with things and doing things that feel inspiring and calling to you. The other thing I would say that is a little bit more of a recipe that feels like kind of nice to people is, like, I know when I work with someone inside of my sacred visionary mentorship or any of my training programs, I'll look at certain indicators. I can see it in someone's numerology. I can see it in their nameology. I can see it in their astrology, and I can see it in their Akashic records. So when someone signs on to work with me in a program, I look at all 4 of those indicators for them. And I can always find at least significant clues that are guideposts for them, that light up for them. For example, one of the people in my Sacred Visionary mentorship, this is what she's working on. She's in a kind of in a job career she doesn't really love, isn't her highest, inspiration, but it's paying the bills. And what she wants to do more of is very much aligned with what I was saying. Like, it's going to have something to do with water. It's going to have something to do with community. It's going to have something to do with spirituality. You're going to bring those things together: water, community, spirituality. And she's like, yes, that's exactly right. So then you just start moving and tweaking your life in those directions, and more gets revealed, because as you don't get the whole picture all up front,
No,
right? Know that.
no.
You get like a few pieces and you move forward, and more comes into play.
Exactly. Yes, that's lovely. That's lovely. So we'll talk a little bit more about what you actually do and offer. I want to talk about the DNA work that you do, because that is something that lit me up a lot, and I don't know enough about it to explain it. So I kind of tapped into it, but I'm like, I don't really understand it. So can you please share with us what it is that you do and what you offer with the DNA work that you do?
Yeah, okay. I love the DNA part. Let me say, up until 2012, scientists up until that point believed that we had 2 strands of DNA, which is basically, our genetics and our ancestry, and then 10 strands of junk. And then in 2012, they became conscious of the fact and, validated that there are 10 strands that are not junk, that they're dormant. And since then, they've been studying them. In 2020, I believe, they revealed that there are actually 4 more codons in the DNA than they even formerly realized. So they're still trying to explore this dormant DNA, but we know that there are at least 10 additional strands of DNA that is called dormant. So basically, this is how I understand it and how it's been taught to me. And when I say taught to me, learned through direct alignment with my source, what I call downloads, or teaching from and through my connection with my source. I did not study this in a book. No one ever taught any of this to me in a physical way. But your first 2 strands, yes, they're your genetics, but they're also the messages from your ancestors. And most of that, for the most part, not all of it, is somewhat corrupted. So what do I mean by that? If a person has breast cancer in their lineage, if a person has diabetes in their lineage, that's corrupted. And that stuff can be what I call cleared, healed, and resolved. It's just markers in the DNA where someone in the ancestral line, in the lineage, did not fully live in alignment with their source, with the divine, the infinite, God, the creator, however we want to, express that. And from living out of alignment, they passed down messages of information and energy that was misaligned. And depending on whether the descendant took that on as truth or not, they could get that corrupted DNA. So let's go to a more just on the lines of corrupted, and then I'll get to the good stuff, because it's even better. Let's say someone has breast cancer in their lineage, as an example. Breast cancer is, as a corrupted DNA, is someone along the lineage did not receive the nurturing that they really needed, that their soul needed, and was missing the nurturing. And then somehow that lack of nurturing got passed down. And then someone else took that on too and said, I didn't get the nurturing. And this can go on. And I'm oversimplifying it here by saying it's just nurturing, but that's the general. And so when a person starts to become more conscious of the awareness of this in the DNA, they can actually go into their DNA with consciousness, with energy, with help from the non-physical, and resolve those issues, right? That's what I help people to do. We can resolve that energetically, because we can replace all that corrupted program. We can expunge it from the DNA and replace it with the gifts of consciousness, which is, I know what it means to be nurtured. I know how it feels to be nurtured. I know how to live my life. It's safe for me to be nurtured, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever that person might need. And then we can move it through the bloodlines, right?
That's
So,
great.
yeah, so that's just the corrupted part. Now, the dormant part's even better, Pam, because the dormant stuff is your greatest gifts, your greatest talents, all the solutions that you as an individual are here to bring forward for humanity. Whatever your unique soul needs to solve your own problems, to come into alignment with your own source, to really reveal the magnificence and the brilliance that you are. That's the dormant stuff. It's all the best of us. It's
Mhm.
our brilliance. It's all of our solutions. It's just like, for example, every person, this is something I discovered in the DNA, like every person has codes of immunity and imperviousness,
Mm.
codes of immunity, and just waiting to be activated, to be basically awakened. Now, immunity and imperviousness to what? Think anything in the external world that could really, like, viruses, think, chemtrails, think radiation, think, things like that. Now, it's not a magic wand, it's a state of consciousness and energetic being. So
Mm.
it's not like you can brainwash yourself or just tell yourself with an affirmation. No, it when these get activated, it starts to become your reality. And so because you're creating, in a sense, your reality with your consciousness, with your energy, with your vibration, it starts to reveal itself to you as truth. And then
Mhm.
you're living your life that way, and you're free from fear of those kinds of things, knowing that that's just not something that can affect you the way that
Mm.
it could if you didn't have those codes turned on,
I
activated.
got that. I got that. So this is so awesome. This is really awesome.
Awesome.
Any of you who are listening to this broadcast, call this woman. Contact her by her website. You can get lots of goodies from her website, free gifts, free downloads, coaching, really anything that you need, she can actually provide when it comes to really up leveling who
Mm.
you are being as a human being on this planet. So I wanted to go back to the whole world of really through our own consciousness being able to turn on different aspects of our brain so that our physicality actually gets transformed.
Yeah.
I started doing this when I was doing massage. And then I combined massage, physical massage with energetic massage. And it's really exciting because then you start getting the downloads. I started getting massive downloads every time I did a massage for someone.
Wow.
And then they started finding me like, "Oh, I want some of that." And we couldn't really call it psychic work in the massage place, but we could call it Reiki because
Mm.
people understood Reiki. And so I started doing Reiki sessions, right?
Mm.
But they were really channeling sessions because I was getting massive information every time. And what I was finding is that we, through our own consciousness and commitment, can actually shift the way that our body is processing different nutrients, different energies, different colors, whole different ways of being, and really changing who we're being on the inside out. And and so the DNA, I believe, is totally, totally connected to the brain and the
Mm.
way that the brain is processing. And that when people have trauma, traumatic injuries, traumatic near-death experiences, comas, a stroke. I had a stroke, which automatically shifted my brain, and then I went into a comatose state, which
Mm.
again, my brain was being worked on, and different things were firing. And I came out of that experience, and I was having like new words were showing up in my vocabulary. I was like, "What is that? Do I even know what that word means? I don't even know what that word means. Let me look it up." Right? So different things get fired when we're ready for them.
Mm.
And when we're ready for them, then we get to decide, okay, now these things are happening, but I really need a teacher to be able to guide me in this new path that's opening up to me. And this, folks, is where Lori can come in and really, really work with you. I can work with you as well, but I'm highlighting Lori today so that she can have her work really heard and seen and honored for who she's being now.
Wow,
So, so what else would you like to share with folks? We've got some more time.
well, let me say first, people can get a gifted DNA activation from me if they would like. They can go to lorispagna.com/free gifts/DNA, and they'll get a class and then two different activations. And they'll even get, if they ask for it, a third one on immunity and imperviousness. So that's really good, right? And thank you for saying that. But I'll go to what you just said, the brain part, because a lot of times we don't always realize, see, in our reality, we've been functioning from this reality where we're using primarily our left analytical brain, and we haven't really cultivated and developed our right brain, which is the awareness brain, right? And we haven't really learned yet to bridge that cerebral cortex is dividing the brain. It's so that they're, in a sense, even though the whole brain is still working, it's not really working in a very unified way. So actually, through energy work, we can allow that cerebral cortex to unify the left brain and the right brain. So we're working with more synchronicity, divine synchronicity, in more alignment and more harmony. But even beyond that, what I want to say is that most energy that we identify as fear, and that includes doubt, worry, anxiety, frustration, uncertainty, all the lower, denser experiences that we associate with just living in the world and having challenges that are of the brain or of the mind, even if it's considered to be any kind of mental disorder, that is typically stuff, including traumas that could be associated with brain or brain activity. That stuff is stored in either the amygdala of the brain or the hippocampus. And that stuff is energy. So what science doesn't, I don't think that science has realized yet, is that it can be cleared out of the brain. It's energy that can be cleared out. So once you clear that out of the brain, the person's functioning becomes so much more progressed. We're using more of our capacity in a conscious way. And then
So
beyond that, sorry.
let's talk about that for a minute. Can we talk about that for a minute? So I have some energy techniques that I use, including light language, which is amazing at really clearing things quite quickly. What are some of the tools that you use to clear out those spaces and weight and parts of us that are dormant or in the way or not helping us align with what we're here for?
Most of what I'm doing now, like I've been doing energy work for so many years. So now more of what I do is just working with the divine. It sort of guides me and leads me. But one of the practices I love for that is what I call a brain illumination practice, where we're just using God consciousness and light to move through every area of the brain in a very specific way, in a very guided way. And I'm working with beings in the non-physical who serve the light, which is part of God's plan or lighted creation or the agenda of the light to serve humanity in our evolution. So I'm using a particular practice that I was taught by those beings that illuminates the areas of the brain that are carrying this trapped energy or stuck energy or density, to remove it and clear it. That's what I call a brain illumination practice. To my knowledge, it's not out there. It's not known I don't know of it in the physical world. But the other thing that I was going to say too, that's really important, is that in addition to what's going on in the brain, which is a major part of it, we also have, as you know, Pam, we have these major energy centers called chakras. And the chakras, it's kind of a little bit like, I liken it sometimes to like your teeth. If you're not flossing every day, gunk builds up in there and can cause like tartar. So most people, their chakras are carrying a lot of like density or trapped energy. And that energy could be Sometimes it's opinions or thoughts or beliefs, but because that's not just, that stuff isn't only stored in the brain, but it's also emotions or some other form of trauma, being abused, being neglected, being betrayed, being, cheated on, lied to. Those are traumas too. Issues related to trust or being taken advantage of, all those kinds of things. Not only can they get stored up in the chakra centers, they can also get stored up in the energy fields, because our physicality is not all we are. We have
Right.
layers of energy, which you could call sort of dimensional bandwidths or just fields of energy around us. And the truth of who we are is that we're the size of a house or a building, right? So those fields of energy around us can trap energy. We can pick up something from someone else or somewhere else, or maybe it's hanging out from another parallel existence, which you could call a past lifetime, but science recognizes that as a parallel reality where we exist, right? Physics recognizes that. So, maybe somewhere you were beheaded, or, you were burnt at the stake, or something happened, and that's a trauma lodged in your energy field because you're a multidimensional being.
Mhm.
So that stuff, most humans, I don't think, have quite realized how that can be cleared too.
Right.
And so between the chakras, the multidimensional levels and layers, and then what we also have when you kind of add on to that is from a soul perspective that we were talking about earlier, the soul has an agenda,
Mhm.
not only what it wants to clear, heal, and resolve, but also what it wants to bring through. And so there's work to do on that sort of plane of existence, on that level. We could call it karma dharma. That's a good way to phrase it. But it's
Yep.
just part of what we've agreed. So all that stuff is meant to be addressed. I have a
Yes.
lot of different practices that I use depending on how I'm guided or led, but I'm always these days working with source energy. I'm
Of
just
course.
asking and asking
Yep.
that source is guiding, leading, or overseeing whatever it is that's meant to be done in service to whomever I'm working with.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and something that I want to allude to with you folks, or actually not even allude, I'm going to actually say it directly to you, is that every one of you are at a different place. Those of you who are, you know what, I'm in pain all the time. I'm in pain all the time in my body, and I can't even handle any more pain in my body. And I'm so stressed and I could barely move and I'm getting older and yada, 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 right? You're very focused on the third dimension, this physical self. And I can promise you that is the hardest part to clear first. It, believe it or not, it really is. When we go to the energetic space and the past life space and the God source space, it's actually a lot easier to clear that stuff. And then what gets to happen is that the physical body starts feeling better because
Yes.
we cleared this gunk that's actually impeding any progress that you're making on the physical level. So that is an interesting aspect of the work that I've done in my life, which is that I was a massage therapist for 25 years, which is really great. And I kept finding that the same people were coming back week after week after week with the same issues because they weren't able to clear the other. And as a massage therapist, in the work that I was in the spas, there wasn't enough time nor the willingness to really address those pieces. So when you're willing and you're committed to working on the energetic level, your body will respond by allowing you some grace with that.
Mhm.
And you'll also be given the ability to take care of yourself in a new way. Wouldn't you say that's correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. It's hard for people to understand that by the time something gets into the physical body as a dis-ease of some kind or another, it's because it was neglected or missed. on the other energetic planes. And that's my language of what you're saying. To me, that's exactly what you're saying. It's harder to clear it from there. So we go to the non-physical plane, all those planes of existence that are, emotional, mental, energetic, spiritual, auric, karmic, those are all energy and vibration that make up that ultimately anchor into the physical body. So if you're clearing it on those planes, it takes a little bit longer for the body to actually recognize, oh, it's different, I'm improving. But because it starts off that the person just starts to feel better, or the animal. And then after some time, they start to recognize, like, oh, I don't have that pain anymore, it's gone. Or but it's a gradual process, just like you said, because the body takes longer to respond because the body's in more density, but the clearing at the higher planes, or the energetic levels, is much faster, much easier, much quicker. And then it sort of filters down where the body starts to make the change. But even before the body physically heals, the person will start to feel a little better. And it starts off subtle because they're like, I think I feel better. I'm not sure. And so they have to
Yeah.
stick with it, because that's the big issue. Is I love that you said your people were coming back, but it's a bummer, right? Because that they were coming back with sometimes the same stuff until you started incorporating more of the energy practice. Because the biggest challenge for people who are in a lot of health disorders, type of health related issues, is that it does require more time in many
Mhm.
cases. And we've been confused in our society to believe that, it's energy healing or spiritual healing is supposed to happen like a pill does. Like
Yeah.
pills might work overnight. Energy healing is more permanent and more effective long term, but is slower.
Yeah.
So it's what the soul really needs. It's really what's going to get to the root of it, especially when you're working with really pure energy. But the pill will just cover it up and mask it most of the time.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I want to share with you guys, and you've heard me say this before, is I am not dissing physical healing and nor physical help from doctors and physicians. They know their stuff, okay? And we need to take care of the body. We've got to take care of the body first, right? And we're talking about coupling them together. So
Mhm.
allowing ourselves to have the physical healing and the physical well-being and the nurturing and the pampering that we need, and dealing with any illness that's in existence, as well as, okay, so what is actually causing this physical stuff that's happening with me? There's a really great author who was renowned for her work with energy, Louise Hay, and she wrote many books. She wrote this, first started out with this little book that was probably, maybe 25 pages, and it was called Heal Your Body. And she goes into this world of, oh, I've got this symptom in my body. What does that relate to? Oh, this pain in my body might be connected to XYZ. Oh, is there an affirmation that I can use that will start addressing some of these issues? It's great. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And she expanded that book to say, heal your body, heal your life.
Mhm.
And so I recommend it highly to you, those of you who are interested in how this body and mind and soul connection can happen in a balanced way. And Lori and I both work with the energetic as well as with the physical, so that we can be all encompassing well in body, mind, and soul.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest would be like a first step or process for folks that they can take away from our time together today?
Well, one of the first things I think is just get yourself, whoever you are, to any kind of energy healing. It's great even if you just start in a circle, like, a group, it'll start to help, like an energy healing circle, like a Reiki circle, or something similar, breath healing, transformational breath and meditation. That's a great place to start, because the truth is, this is really fundamentally true, that all dis-ease, the origin of all dis-ease, discomfort, mental, emotional, regardless, physical, whatever it is, the origin of it is in consciousness, which is energy. So when you start working on the energetic plane and the consciousness plane, which is beyond the mind, beyond the emotion, beyond energy, it's even, yes, it's part of the divine, the infinite. When you start working on that plane, you're going to get much faster, better results overall, long-term permanent results, but not faster in the sense of overnight, faster in the sense of feeling better rather quickly. So that is what I would guide people to. If you've got whatever it is, physical, emotional, whatever it is, start getting to healing circles where you can receive and be around that energy. And even if at first you're not entirely sure whether or not it's working, stick with it, because even if you don't, it'll open some door for something else. You'll find some other circle or some other group. And that's just a great way to begin for people. And then continue to ask, because these days, as humanity is evolving, we're getting healing and resolution on things faster than ever before.
Yes,
So
we are.
everything's healable, everything's resolvable. There's nothing that you're meant to suffer with or be stuck with. It's all about learning, growth, evolution, and transformation. And that's the name of the game now. So, and as we're evolving, you get to live what you really came here for. We are magnificent beings who are
Yes, we
meant to bring our forward our light and our gifts to the world to make this whole of humanity uplifted. That's what we're here for. So, and it's within us, it's within our DNA, it's within our consciousness, it's available to us as we open our channel, essentially, to unify more and more with the divine, with the infinite. That's really part of us that we become more at one with. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Do you happen to run a healing circle?
I do.
Awesome.
The
So
next
how do
one coming up is, on August 8th, which is the Lionsgate. We didn't get to talk about that so much, but the 8/8 Lionsgate, we're doing DNA activations. So
Okay.
is if they want to sample it out first, they can do the free gifted at lorispagna.com
Perfect.
lorispagna.com/free gifts/DNA. And they can
Okay.
get a gifted DNA activation. And then they can certainly join us on 8/8. That's a 3-hour event. That's like teaching, tutorial, channeling, messaging, and then meditation, healing activations. Really awesome. That's
So
great.
how do they sign up for that? On your website?
Yeah, it's at lorispagna.com under the live events tab. They would see DNA activations, the link for that.
Perfect. Awesome. Yay. Oh,
Yeah.
Lori, I'm so glad
thank
that this happened. I'm so glad. And for those
Thank
of
you
you
so
who are like, what's going on? Why does it look different on the screen? Because, as I said before, our electronics these days are kind of going wonky. So when it happens on the show, I just go with it and we just do it anyway. And we just show up because that's who we are and what we're here for, is to collaborate and get together and share our light. And that's what we got to do today. And Lori, thank you so much for coming. I will have you back another time, if that's okay with you.
Oh, I love them. It's been my honor and pleasure.
Beautiful. So have a wonderful day. Those of you who are listening, thank you for tuning in one more time to the Empower Me Show. And please know that your life is up to you. Many blessings and have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright on Transformation Talk Radio. Tune in to learn more about living a fully empowered life. Remember that your life is up to you and you can choose the spiritual path you are on. There is spiritual energy and wisdom in everything and everyone around you. Listen carefully for what the universe is trying to tell you in every moment. You are already being guided along your journey. Call upon your spirit guides anytime you need help with anything. Know that you are safe in every moment, even if it seems that you are not. For more information about Pam Bright, visit brightbutterflyenterprises.com or email theempowermeshow@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. We hope to see you next week.